Sunday, January 4th, 2026, AGNDD Until I Report topic. Tatiana Schlossberg, Kennedy daughter who wrote of her cancer, dies at 35. Please pardon any visual and informational inaccuracies in this partially AI-generated article-based video. Tatiana Schlossberg, Kennedy daughter who wrote of her cancer, dies at 35. An environmental journalist and child of Caroline Kennedy, she wrote of her struggle with leukemia in The New Yorker in November, drawing worldwide sympathy. By Penelope Green, December 30th, 2025. Tatiana Schlossberg, an environmental journalist and a daughter of Caroline Kennedy and granddaughter of President John F. Kennedy, whose harrowing essay about her rare and aggressive blood cancer, published in The New Yorker magazine in November, drew worldwide sympathy and praise for Miss Schlossberg's courage and raw honesty, died on Tuesday. She was 35. Her death was announced in an Instagram post by the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation in Boston, signed by her family. It did not say where she died. Titled "A Battle with My Blood," the essay appeared online on November 22nd, the 62nd anniversary of her grandfather's assassination. It appeared in print in the DC 8 issue of the magazine with a different headline, "A Further Shore." In it, Miss Schlossberg wrote of how she learned of her cancer after the birth of her daughter in May 2024. There was something off about her blood count, her doctor noticed, telling her, it could just be something related to pregnancy and delivery, or it could be leukemia. It was leukemia with a rare mutation. Miss Schlossberg had a new baby and a 2-year-old son. "I could not believe that they were talking about me," she wrote. "I had swum a mile in the pool the day before, 9 months pregnant. I wasn't sick. I didn't feel sick. I was actually one of the healthiest people I knew. I regularly ran 5 to 10 miles in Central Park. I once swam 3 miles across the Hudson River, eerily to raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society." She added, "This could not possibly be my life." She wrote of months of chemotherapy and a postpartum hemorrhage from which she almost bled to death, followed by more chemo and then a stem cell transplant, a Hail Mary pass that might cure her. Her older sister, Rose Schlossberg, was a match and would donate her cells. Her brother, Jack Schlossberg, now running for Congress in New York's 12th District, was a half-match. Nonetheless, he pressed the doctors, asking if a half-match might be good enough. Could he donate too? He could not. He could. After the transplant, when Miss Schlossberg's hair fell out, Jack shaved his head in solidarity. She wore scarves to cover her bare scalp. When her son came to visit her in the hospital, he did too. She was never able to fully care for her daughter, to feed, diaper, or bathe her, because of the risk of infection, and her treatments had kept her away from home for nearly half of her daughter's first year of life. "I don't know who really she thinks I am," Miss Schlossberg wrote, "and whether she will feel or remember when I am gone that I am her mother." She went into remission, had more chemo, relapsed, and joined a clinical trial. There were blood transfusions, another stem cell transplant, from an unrelated donor, more chemo, more setbacks. She went into remission again, relapsed, joined another clinical trial, and contracted a form of the Epstein-Barr virus. The donated cells attacked her own, a condition called graft versus host disease. When she came home after a stint in the hospital in October, she was too weak to pick up her children. Her oncologist told her that he thought he could maybe keep her alive for another year. "For my whole life I've tried to be good," she wrote, "to be a good student and a good sister and a good daughter, and to protect my mother and never make her upset or angry. Now I have added a new tragedy to her life, to our family's life, and there's nothing I can do to stop it." Tragedy, of course, has trailed the Kennedy family for decades. Caroline Kennedy, a former ambassador to Australia and Japan, was just 5 when her father was assassinated on November 22, 1963. She was 10 when her uncle Robert F. Kennedy, a presidential candidate in the Democratic primary of 1968, was murdered. Her brother, John F. Kennedy, Jr., died in 1999, when the plane he was piloting crashed off Martha's Vineyard, killing him, his wife, Carolyn Bessette Kennedy, and her sister, Lauren Bessette. He was 38 years old, and Tatiana had been a flower girl at his wedding 3 years earlier. Having grown up in the glare of her parents' glamour and her family's tragedies, Miss Kennedy largely succeeded in giving her own children a life out of the spotlight. A relatively normal, if privileged, upbringing, along with a call to public service that was the Kennedy legacy. Tatiana Celia Kennedy Schlossberg was born on May 5, 1990 in Manhattan, the middle child of Miss Kennedy and Edwin Schlossberg, an interactive digital designer. She attended the Brearley School and then Trinity School, private schools in Manhattan. She studied history at Yale University, graduating in 2012, and earned a master's degree in history from Oxford University in 2014. In between, Miss Schlossberg, who had been the editor of the Yale Herald, was a reporter for the Record of Northern New Jersey. In 2012, she was named Rookie of the Year by the New Jersey Society of Professional Journalists. She joined the New York Times in 2014, working first on the Metropolitan Desk and then as a science and climate reporter. Over the years in both New York and New Jersey, she covered a range of subjects, from donut wars, a squabble between shops over accusations of stolen recipes, to gun violence and Hurricane Sandy. In a first-person essay in the Times in 2015, she described herself as a bit of a nerd. She had been covering a rash of overdoses at Wesleyan University that year when her editors sent her back to the Middletown Conorbacol campus to investigate the drug scene there. She was 24 and they thought she might blend in. Even when I was in college, I had never really wanted to go to parties, she wrote. And now I was going to have to spend a Friday night trying to find out where parties were at a school where I didn't go and didn't know anyone. Nightmarish. She continued, also, no one had ever really offered me drugs in college, so I had no idea how I was supposed to find them. I told my younger and much cooler brother I had to go to Wesleyan to report on drugs. He answered, "Why are they sending you? You're practically a narc." On the Metro desk, Miss Schlossberg covered grisly murders as well as lighter fare, including a nun on a path to sainthood, the ice-breaking boats of New York Harbor, the decline of the bodega, and the mysterious discovery of a dead black bear cub in Central Park in 2014. 10 years later, the New Yorker reported that the carcass had been left there by her cousin Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as a peculiar prank. Like law enforcement, she told the Times then, I had no idea who was responsible for this when I wrote the story. In her essay in The New Yorker, she called out her cousin for his actions as Secretary of Health and Human Services, describing him as an embarrassment to me and my immediate family. Under his tenure, she noted, funding for medical research was being cut at institutions like Columbia University, where her husband, George Moran, a urologist, is an assistant professor, and she feared that his job and those of his colleagues were at risk. She wrote of the horror she felt when Mr. Kennedy cut $500 million for research on mRNA vaccines, a technology that is also deployed against some cancers. After her postpartum hemorrhage, she was given misoprostol, a drug used for medical abortions. She pointed out that her cousin had directed the Food and Drug Administration to review the drug after decades of safe use. Suddenly, she wrote, the healthcare system on which I relied felt strained, shaky. Miss Schlossberg was the author of Inconspicuous Consumption, The Environmental Impact You Don't Know You Have, 2019, a kind of consumer's guide to the ways in which human behavior adversely affects the climate. In 2020, the Society of Environmental Journalists honored the book with the Rachel Carson Environment Book Award. Miss Schlossberg hoped her book would help people make changes in their behavior and buying habits, rather than being overwhelmed by climate anxiety and fatalism. We don't have to keep living like this in fear of the future and with guilt about the past because change is possible, she wrote. Miss Schlossberg is survived by her parents, her siblings, and her husband, whom she met at Yale and married in 2017, along with their 2 young children. Before her illness, She had been preparing to begin reporting for her second book, focused on climate change and the world's oceans. She learned that one of her chemotherapy drugs, cytarabine, was derived from a type of sea sponge first synthesized by scientists at the University of California, Berkeley in 1959. Those scientists, she wrote, almost certainly relied on government funding, the very thing, she added, that her cousin had cut. At its heart, climate change is a justice issue, Ms. Schlossberg wrote in the preface to a 2022 edition of Inconspicuous Consumption. It exacerbates inequality within and between countries. We need to save the polar bears, sure, but we also need to save the people. Actually, we can't save the polar bears if we don't save the people. Ash Wu contributed reporting. A correction was made on December 30, 2025. An earlier version of this obituary included a number of errors. It misidentified Rose Schlossberg as Miss Schlossberg's younger sister. She is her older sister. It misidentified the drug Miss Schlossberg was given after a postpartum hemorrhage. It was misoprostol, not mifepristol. And it misstated the subtitle of Miss Schlossberg's 2019 book. It is The Environmental Impact You Don't Know You Have, not The Environmental Impact You Didn't Know You Had. When we learn of a mistake, we acknowledge it with a correction. If you spot an error, please let us know at nightnews@nighttimes.com. Penelope Green is a Times reporter on the obituaries desk. A version of this article appears in print on January 1, 2026, Section B, page 12 of the New York edition with the headline, Tatiana Schlossberg, 35, Kennedy daughter who wrote of her cancer dies. Comments. Ken Olson, Florida, December 30, 2025, very sad, condolences to her family. Cynthia, Ohio, December 30th, 2025. She wrote so honestly about her sickness, especially when she said that she has no idea if her youngest child knows that she's her mother or who she is at all. And when she said all her life that she never wanted her mother, who had already endured such painful losses, to be sad, and that now she would be another loss for her mother. Heartbreaking. May God be with her family during this dark time. May RFK be shamed into restoring research monies for health issues. Elsa, United Kingdom, December 30th, 2025. Very sad news. I read her piece at the New Yorker and it was incredibly moving. My sympathies to her family. PB&J, Maine, December 30th, 2025. For my whole life I have tried to be good, she wrote, to be a good student and a good sister and a good daughter and to protect my mother and never make her upset or angry. What a beautiful soul. Nancy Inchy, Third Coast, December 30th, 2025. Her essay in the New Yorker was profound and deeply moving. I hope the magazine makes it available for all to read. Deepest sympathies to her family, all of whom have known too much early death. New York, December 30th, 2025. I didn't know Tatiana or her family, but I can't stop crying. Her New Yorker essay, so eloquent, wise, and full of grace, shattered me and broke my heart. I can tell that she was an extraordinary woman, brilliant and talented and hopeful and thoughtful and kind. I am so sorry for all the tragedy that has hit the Kennedy family over the years, and for Caroline in losing her parents, her brother, and now her daughter. It is tough to process so much trauma and grief. I wish Tatiana's husband and children strength in the years ahead. Let's all be inspired by the light that Tatiana seems to have brought into this world, and at such a dark and frightening time in the U.S., let us commit to kindness, love, and compassion, and using the gifts we were given in the time we still have left in our lives. Carissa, California, December 30th, 2025. So sad. One of the most harrowing things she said in her essay in the New Yorker was that quote about how devastated she was having to bring her family more tragedy when she spent her entire life trying to be a good daughter, sister. What a weight to carry on your shoulders. That essay was so raw and vulnerable, and also using it to call out RFK Jr. was incredibly timely and brave as well. I enjoyed following her climate reporting as well over the years. A true Kennedy stepping up to service in her own way through journalism. Rest in peace, Tatiana. In Boston, December 30th, 2025. A truly good person with so much to offer the world dies at 35, while evil people go on for decades more. The unfairness of it all is astounding. Frog Prof. Western Mass, December 30th, 2025. Post-diagnosis and failed treatments, she could have closed shop and not shared her story with the public. She bravely did share, and our humanity benefits from her courage. Thank you, Tatiana. Marianne, Minnesota, December 30th, 2025. Her essay haunted me and stayed with me for days. She found out about her leukemia in the cruelest way possible. My heart breaks for her family. Debbie, New York, December 30th, 2025. How heartbreaking. Poor Caroline has suffered so much loss. May sweet memories bring comfort and peace to all who knew and loved Tatiana.
Thank you for watching this AGNDD and Tele report, dear viewers. Please like, subscribe, and click the bell button to get notified during new uploads. And make sure to tune in next time. Stay safe and healthy. Cheers.